I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh Lord, pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of day. I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day.
Now, I recently got a message on one of my YouTube videos saying that I hadn't done a video for some time, which is true. I haven't really done them because for the number of people who watch them it's not really worth the hassle. However, he asked me for another video, so I decided to do this. Now, what I've been telling you in the videos that you've seen is that all this is just mathematical. It has nothing to do with people buying and selling anything. Now, I know that sounds completely and utterly mad, but as I've stated before, if you control the exchanges, you can control the price. Now, obviously, to have an individual or 100 men or 10,000 men doing all this, they'd never be able to do it. So what you need is some kind of computer program that can not do this in real time and make it look random. Okay, probably with some kind of input from people buying and selling, but I don't know. Anyway, a client sent me his chart to look at and to check on cotton US, and so I actually decided, this was about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I decided to have a look at it from scratch. So what we've got, I can see that on this weekly chart, so each line represents the high and low for a week, I've got a major low in 2016. So what I try to do is to find out how the items worked, and hopefully that can give me some ideas of how to trade it into the future. Now, I'm not going to show you how I work out these numbers. I've done it in previous videos, but I've been giving too much away, and I've made quite a few important discoveries recently. But I decided that the first rise was that number there. Now you can actually see that it doesn't actually quite touch it, but that's the one that gets the maths to work. So that to me is hindsight. Okay, so I'm just trying to get an idea of how the item works, as I said before. And then I can obviously see there's a major high up here, and I decided it's this one. Sorry, not that one. This one. Okay, now by using those two numbers, okay, I can get that top. Now, if you add that to that, then you get this number. Okay, now when it's halfway between two levels, then I make it a lighter colour so I can see what's happening. So this is just trying to get an idea of how the thing works. Now, from those numbers you can get other numbers to predict the future. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get there, it's the magical word, if it ever gets there in the future. And if you take my word for it, that and that gives you that for the future. Now, I'm no longer interested in that because the market here has actually gone lower than where we're doing those percentages from. So this is the more important low now. So I'm just going to cut that out of the way there. Now, as this now halfway between this one and this one, there's going to be halfway between this one and this one. And that number is 100. Again, I'm going to cut it here because of what I've just said before. And then there's going to be a number between this one, and that is going to be a light colour, and the number is 155.55, so that's up there. So it's going to be 91.55 0.666. So that is the number that's between those two. Okay, and if we go higher, we're going to get 170.5882. So that is up there, and then the number above that one is 187.5, which would be halfway between, so it's a light colour. And all those numbers that I've just put on are calculated from that number and finding what that top is halfway between the two. So you're going to say, well, that's no use for the future, and I totally and utterly agree. So I was just basically messing about, just trying to find out how it works, as I said before, and I went to this major low that was made here. If I can get the low. Okay, and I just started doing the numbers. Now, what I should have said, actually I forgot, is that because that and that I've used as hindsight, you can actually go backwards. So you can actually go, because that's worked and that's worked, how can I get those two numbers, yeah, with a number? And if you take my word for it again, it's actually this number. It's this number here, okay, and you can see that it gives you that 2 or 3 week fall from here. So it's just basically kind of confirming that you've actually got the right numbers, because if you get the numbers slightly wrong, you'll get it slightly wrong into the future, okay, which can make a big difference about making money and not making money. Anyway, so I went to the low that was here, and I just started doing the same numbers. So for instance, this one. And the first rise was pretty much that number. This number here, go to this low, and although it didn't stop exactly, it's actually where the market topped out. And the next number is this one, so if we go to this low here, we get that. Now, just as you can have halfway between halfway, you can carry on doing halfway between these numbers. And if you take my word for it, halfway between these two numbers is 53.3333. Now again, that would be a weak line. So I'm just trying to find patterns, okay, with the past to see if it might help us in the future. Now halfway between this one and this one is this number. Okay, so that would, I can't go any lighter than that, but that would be a lighter colour if the software allowed me to do it, which one day I'll get around to doing. So you can see that it's exactly where the market tops out. In fact, if you look at the very first video I did on YouTube, it's all about the Gann number of 50% that he talked about in the 1920s. So you can see 50 is very close to that number of 50.8196. Okay, so that would be a constant number I would just watch for in the future. Okay, so those numbers there were worked out with hindsight, and I've gone back to the past to see how that has worked, and you can get mathematically with those numbers that top that was made there. Let's go to this high here, and let's try some of these numbers from coming down from highs. So if we go to that high, what percentage did it fall from that high to that low? Well, strangely enough, it just happens to be 43.75. Exactly. Okay, which, if you think about it, is pretty weird. Okay, because the rise from this low to this high was 43.75. The rise from this low to this high here was 43.75. Okay. Now, one of the numbers is 58.62, yeah, which gives us that high there, and you can see here it doesn't go and reach it from this low. But let's put that number on there and take it away from this high here and see what happens. And if we scroll down a bit, you'll see that the low was made at 58.6205 almost. Yeah. Now I also showed you that halfway between this number and this number is 53.33. So let's take away 53.333. And again, it doesn't quite touch it, but it's the low. The number I said was halfway between this one and this one is this one. So if we take away that number from the right high, $8,196. Lo and behold, where did the market stop? It stopped at 50.89 and not Gann's constant number of 50, which got broken by a bit. Yeah. So how could we use this? Well, first of all, 43.75 cents to be important, so well worth watching for the future. Okay. I would put 50% on a chart automatically, but in this particular case I'd be more interested in 50.819 than 50, because every item works in its own unique way. You just got to find out how it works. Okay. But all these people who do technical analysis and say, well, I use a 30-week moving average with a 8-week moving average, or Elliott wave, and I'm looking for 0.618 retracements or 1.618 and all the other stuff, doesn't work that way. Everything is unique with a basic principle behind the whole thing, and again, you just got to find out how. So let's go to this high here. Now let's take away that number that we started off with, minus 43.75, and lo and behold, where does the market bottom out? It bottoms out exactly at 43.75. Amazing. Yeah. The next number after 43.75 is this number here. So let's go to that high and let's take away that number and see if anything happens at 50.8196. And lo and behold, 50.8196 is exactly the same level as this 58.62 from this high, which just so happens to be the low. Yeah, you can't make this up. Yeah, this is all a scam. Okay, everything you've been taught, everything is just a lie. Okay, now those two tops are at exactly the same level basically, so if we go to that top there, then it's basically the same number than how far the market fell. In other words, it isn't Gann's 50% level that I'd be interested in this, although in this case it is exactly 50. Yeah, but I hope you get the idea. The thing is mathematical. Okay, so for the future, you know, we can try some of these numbers and see what we get. So one of the numbers is 50 point, yeah, so let's go to this low and add 50.8196, and it happens to be the top. If you were doing Gann from his the book 45 Years on Wall Street, you'd do 50 and 50. I mean, they're practically exactly the same level. Yeah, but it is a number that I would be looking to trade at around about 50, because it tends to work at 50. Okay. Now the next number, it goes straight through. You can see we just go straight up. So as you have these numbers on, yeah, then you'd be watching it, and then on the daily chart, and it gets there and it goes straight through. Now one of the next number, that number, it'll just go straight through, and this number here, if we go to this low, you can see that it goes straight through that number as well. Okay, but what number, I remember what I did now. So one of the numbers here is 100%. Yeah, and another one of the numbers is 91.66. So let's try those. So let's put on 91.666 from this low here. And lo and behold, where did the market stop? It stopped at 91.666. Weird, don't you think? Yep. One of the numbers after that one is 100. So let's do 100% from this low and see what happens. And lo and behold, the market stops at 100. Yeah. Now I'd also watch 130 as a decision level. They're not trades, they're decision levels to make a decision to make a trade, which it goes straight through. The next one is 155.5, which is there in that list there. And then obviously we'd have some other numbers that I've already put on, like that one there. Yeah, and that one there. So if we change the scale, then we can see a bit closer. But you can see the same numbers working. Yeah. So they're just decision levels. Yeah. You can see here that 155.5 coincides 187.5. Yeah. So when you get more than one level at the same place, then hopefully you've got a better chance. So I showed you 50.8196 because of all the things I've just shown you. Well, I can see that there's a major low here. So let's add that 50.8196 from that low. And lo and behold, where does the market stop exactly? And then we have a 2 or 3 week fall. Yeah. A number to watch for the future would be this one, 58, because those numbers in that list. So let's go to there and add the same number. So from this low here, and add the same number. Now that's quite close to that number there. So maybe worth watching in the future. Although for me, I like to try and get things pretty much exact. 76 has worked in the past because it was that rise from that low. So, you know, another number maybe that's worth watching. And if it coincides with something else, then good. But there's nothing really at the moment for me that's coinciding at the same place. So, and then obviously we can use this low here and use this low here and do the same kind of thing. But the idea of the video is to show you that the whole thing is mathematical and you're being scammed. You're being fooled, believing that it's got something to do with economics. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with economics. The system is controlled. Yeah, the question is by who? Anyway, hopefully you found it interesting. And if you want more information, you can get hold of me at Gary with one R in it at Gann, GANN.co. .uk.